Hey everybody, welcome back to You Are Free TV. It is January 13th, a Tuesday here at You Are Free TV. I'm so glad to have you back on the channel. We're going to jump in with the big news, and it is off the charts. This year, 2026, has literally just been hyperspeed. So it is just every day enormous. So I'll jump in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act of reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. And so I'm going to jump right in with the news. I always say thank you so much to everybody supporting this channel. I couldn't be more grateful or proud that I have people who support this channel. And please hit the like. Please share the videos. I am designated for perpetual shadow banning, so I'm still asking for your help in that respect. Spread this channel far and wide if you can. All right, so let's jump in with the news. And I think we need to start here, but actually, I'm going to start here first. I hope you're doing your best today to repel evil in every way in your daily life. I want to start out by saying these things in my videos because this is about, of course, a fight between good and evil. And it's very blurry at times for people to understand, but it's not when you are focused on God in your center and in your daily life. And when you are focused on your own inner transparency with God, then you can project good. You be a salty beacon out there. So you want to repel evil, you put on your full armor of God. And of course, that comes down to prayer and daily prayer. I want to recommend Two Chairs, the great book by Bob Bodine. If you haven't read it, it's a great way to secure your morning prayer. And just putting that out there, repelling evil right now starts in our local communities, in our local, well, in ourselves, but then it's moving outward locally and statewide. Because as Trump is trying to turn this massive ship of globalist destruction of the USA around, it's the local communities, it is the local infiltration by globalism into our local sphere that is the problem, and where the most action by us as individuals needs to happen, whether that's running for office, whether it is going to all of your town hall meetings, confronting all the Agenda 2030 stuff going on there, etc. This is the way to take action now. And as the midterms come, we're going to have to get very, very active. So I'm going to put on the glasses, and actually I'm not yet, because I want to also, of course, recognize the death of Scott Adams, of course, of previous Dilbert fame. Scott Adams passed away today at 68. And this is, of course, he talked about how he got the shots after the V and the bioweapon, and then took the bioweapon and got the turbo cancer, and he passed away today, this morning. And he was fantastic in every, and is fantastic in every way. And interestingly, did claim that though he's never been a believer of Jesus Christ, that he was asking for Jesus, asking for Christ's forgiveness and acceptance into paradise. And I'm sure that he found that because I believe that Scott Adams was a good person. He did amazing things. He lost everything by supporting Trump. Got canceled everywhere with Dilbert, etc. Lost his brand, lost his livelihood, and had to figure out ways to go forward. And I just want to tell everyone out there, don't wait 1 minute. If you took the shots, or if you're constantly around people who did, you need to chelate, you need to get that out of your body. Of course, C60 Evo being a great way to do that, and they're the sponsor of this channel. I'll talk about it at the end, but you need to clean out your body. Don't wait, okay? Take action today so that you can combat those nefarious, evil things that are going on inside the body, done by, of course, the globalist bankster elite trying to create a mass genocide on this planet to consolidate power for their own ends, for their one world government. And so I won't belabor that, but I will say that Scott Adams will be missed, is missed, and also celebrated. Amazing American and human, with common sense and saw the truth on so many levels before he passed, and now, of course, seeing it in the incredible heavenly realm. So we pay tribute to Scott Adams, and we'll move on from there into the news, which was amazing today, as always. And so we're going to jump in. I'm going to just drill down. We have the reason I put that thumbnail up there is because President Trump is literally just going full bore against the City of London bankster regime, and it is to free America from the plans of the globalist banksters out of the City of London, and what he is doing there to go against their what is basically their plan using Canada basically to stop Trump's attempt to get hemispheric dominance back, the Don Road Doctrine, and to control America for Americans first. And he's just come out today with so much. And so we're going to jump into that, but I'm going to cover some other things first that all are interconnected with this, of course, as everything is. And one of those is that, of course, in Kiev, we have the 70% of Kiev without power. They're freezing. It is awful. 14 degrees during the day, -4 at night. Very awful conditions as Russia continues to hit their power grids, and it is getting worse and worse. There will be no coming back from this for Ukraine, and Zelensky is now planning to meet directly in person with Trump again. We're going to see what happens there, but we have, of course, it's always comes down to security guarantees, which is the ongoing and constant debate. And we do not want the USA to have security guarantees for Ukraine because it is, of course, was all set up as a globalist overthrow to create the fake NATO ongoing sham, all right, that is the post-World War II attack on the USA to take all of our treasure, all of our money, feed it through the Marshall Plan back into Europe. It literally comes back to 1897 in the Tariff Act then, okay, when they had so much money in the USA. It was doing so incredibly well with all of the industry that that is when you had the huge attacks by the Rothschilds and the banksters of Europe to come full bore with the World War plans. And World War III was meant to be with Russia. And that's what we're dealing with now. And we're miraculously and incredibly having a president that is stopping it and setting it out of the picture. And so we're going to get into that. It has to do with Greenland. It has to do with Canada. But let's go on from there. Meanwhile, in London, we have this huge situation. We have the London Parliament meeting today and arguing over the CCP, China's mega embassy that they want to build in London. And they want to build it in this Muslim enclave neighborhood in London. And basically that, the CCP is always happy to take the USA's sloppy seconds and happy to get wherever they can a stranglehold. And they see this weakness now with Europe losing its power, actually coming out of NATO, out of Europe, that that America is now a threat to Europe. And this is just because President Trump has tried to equalize relations. It's not even like to conquer Europe at all. Trump is saying through the tariffs, we equalize our trade, we bring Europe to its right size. And interesting developments in Europe today, as we had a leader on a Mediterranean island of Corsica assassinated yesterday. I'm going to get into that. But this is very interesting as the CCP is trying to build this mega embassy. We have a huge amount of Hong Kong dissidents, the dissidents to the CCP who fled to England, very concerned. They have 100K euro bounties on them, and very rightly feel that they will be hunted and already are being by the CCP. But this mega embassy, this is meant to be colossal to bring huge CCP influence into Islamist occupied London. And so we'll see what's going on there. We are seeing some huge fight back in Ireland, and we're going to get more into it. But I want to bring you to eddiehobbs.com, eddiehobbs.com. Check it out. They're trying to launch really bigly this counterpoint media outlet in Ireland, because Ireland's just been absolutely just so screwed over by the EU and by Britain from forever. But basically, they have been so massively taken over by Islam. It is disgusting on every level. And if you go to eddiehobbs.com, you go to Counterpoint, they really need your donations and support to get this media launched. And they're having, I think Steve Bannon's going to be going there next month. There's going to be some big fight back in Ireland coming this year. And it is so needed. And we support the Irish. We love it. And we are fighting for the Irish in every way. So I wanted to mention that. But I want to go here too. I think I will dive into this assassination of the leader of the separatist movement in Corsica. And this was Corsica is an island that has been occupied by the French in the Mediterranean. They've been fighting for about 125 years, well, about 200, really, since the beginning, right before our own revolution here in the USA, for their independence, because of the disappearance of their culture and their language. And they have a huge separatist movement there to get their liberty from France. And there had been talks going on all for the last few years, but excuse me, in the last couple years, well, actually, at the end of last year, huge talks with Macron, where there were supposedly going to be some, still minimal, but some ways that they would have independence within the EU, separate from France, but as part of France, right? And so they want their Corsican language back. They want their education to come back to them without the EU total disgusting, degradation of education with all the globalist junk. They want control of their country. And Corsica, of course, what happened here just yesterday is the head of that movement, Alain Orsani, head of the Corsican movement for self-determination, was killed by a sniper at his mother's funeral. Okay, there in the capital of Corsica, which is Ajaccio. I know I'm murdering those words, but I don't speak French, etc. Or I definitely don't speak Corsican, but Ajaccio, the capital. And just a little background here, there's about 340,000 people on Corsica, and they have been fighting, as I said, as we hit our 250th anniversary, again, the thumbnail, as Trump is moving against the city of London, moving against the bankster elite, and Davos is going to be huge. And he even said himself today in Michigan, and in press talks going and coming from in Michigan, that he's going to be making huge announcements at Davos to do with the US's independence from the globalist banksters of the World Economic Forum in Davos. But what we see here with Corsica is that the Corsican movement for self-determination, this is sort of the public front of what is the Corsican National Liberation Front. And way back in 1998, you had the murder of the president of Corsica by a fellow named, let me see, hold on one second. Let me catch up with myself here for a second. You had Ivan Colonna got a life sentence in Arles in France for the 1998 murder of the Corsican president Claude Crignac in the capital. And Unclear whether or not he actually did this murder, but he was then himself serving 20 years in 2022, or 24 years. He was murdered in prison, and this set off a whole huge events of protest again. And this movement is a populist movement. It's an independent nation. They want control of their own country, literally outside of the EU. They've been in negotiations to at least be their own, in control of their island, even within the EU. And now you have their leader, Alain Orsani, murdered at his mother's funeral yesterday. And so very, very disturbing there, as Macron had already proposed a plan to supposedly have a constitutional amendment type situation where they would have limited autonomy in Corsica, and those negotiations culminating, I believe, at the end of 2025. So I wanted to let you know that that is going on, because we never hear about this. And one of the hugest problems in Corsica, and a couple of things, but what they found was in World War I, World War II, just, this is the European International, okay, the communist one world government that is globalist, bankster run. It is a PPP, a private-public partnership, very much like Nazi Germany, where they wanted to create this. And so what they did in World War I and World War II is that they made sure there were higher conscription rates of people who had to go and fight from the places where they wanted to destroy the rural and especially agrarian and farmer population in the areas that they wanted to, at the end of the day, control and conquer. And this happened hugely in Corsica, where they were in, had huge numbers conscripted into World War I, World War II, basically destroying their farming, and they were huge farmers, and destroying their communities. And so that was then, and outlawing the language, the same thing you see with Ireland and all of these imperialist operations out of the UK, out of France, where we saw the destruction of the language and their culture, and that's what they want back and what they want to teach in their schools. But they also have been hugely fighting in Corsica, right? You've heard of it. It's a place you go on vacation, right? Well, what they can't stand, and what a lot of us in the USA can't stand, and what Trump is addressing with his affordability around housing issues that he is bringing out, in new policies coming out, huge and very exciting, and going to be hugely presented at Davos, which is amazing. But that they were fighting basically rich, foreign-born people out of the EU and out of rich countries coming in and buying up all their land, and creating second homes, displacing Corsicans. They can't afford to live in their own country. The same playbook we hear everywhere. And so that's what's gone down. So they have lost their leader, Alain Orsani. So I wanted to make sure I brought that to your attention, and hopefully we can follow up and see what comes down. All right. And so going from there, we have, of course, Trump revoking the Somalis' protected refugee status that they've had since the 90s. I believe it was Clinton who did that. And of course, we have the Clintons. So no refugee protected status for Somalis starting March 1st of this year. And plus, we're getting Trump saying that starting February 1st, that revoking every bit of federal funding that he can to sanctuary cities, that he will be doing that starting February 1st. So that money war is happening. And it's why you have to be on top of your representatives and your senators, because if we have one problem, okay, with what is stopping progress in this country right now, it is our corrupt Senate and Congress. So keep it in your phone, these numbers: 202-224-3121 for the Senate, 202-224-2321 for Leader Thune, 202-225-3121 for the House, and 202-225-2777 for Leader Johnson. Because these people, all of our, and use the Bill Blaster app.org, or get the app on your phone if you're an apper, and you want to be going after them for every single thing in 2026. Okay, it's the 250th anniversary of this country. You can do that. You can make these calls. You can send those emails. You can attack their social media. This is what we need to do because we need our Congress to behave better, as we see that Bill Clinton did not show up today for, of course, the second attempt to get him in before the Oversight Committee there to do with everything Epstein. It's so disgusting, okay, the levels of evil of Epstein, right? And people often forget or don't really understand the comparison of George Soros comparatively, right? So as we look at Epstein being a absolute triple agent or whatever, with Mossad, with the CIA, with MI6, all of that to create really disgusting and awful developments in bioweapons, in transhumanism, in age extension to do with baby production. Zorro Ranch. Think of all of it. The Butterfly Project. That level of disgusting, right? But then you have George Soros, who is the exact same thing. Okay, exact same thing, protected by the CIA, protected by and used by Mossad and CIA and MI6. The same guy with all the money, and George, okay, he's almost dead now, but Alex, his son, married to Huma Abedin. Of course, this has to do with the Wiener laptop, which still has not been produced, still has not been exposed, and that all the 9 policemen out of Southern District of New York, okay, where Dennehy was in charge, they're all dead, right? And now Dennehy was removed. He protected the Epstein files. He protected the the Wiener laptop, the Biden laptop, all of it. Okay. This same area is where, we need to be watching as this goes forward. But why isn't George Soros treated in the same way? Because we know that all of his DAs, all of the people that Harmeet Dillon is going after to do with Antifa, trying to prosecute them, they all have Soros-funded lawyers. So Alex Soros, being the scourge that he is, thrown out of Hungary, absolutely outlawed to have any financing from him come through Hungary. If Trump is supporting Viktor Orban in his next, again, re-election bid, then throw Soros money out of our country and let's get some criminality, some charges against him. But what we have here is that with the with Bill Clinton not showing up today for this testimony before Congress, let's just remind everybody, okay, that Epstein created the Clinton Foundation and especially Clinton Global Initiative, putting in the seed money, giving it the tens of millions, huge amounts of millions, and of course was the one who was able, after the Mena, Arkansas um, uh, control of Air America for everything that had to do with drugs and human trafficking out of Mena, Arkansas under Bill Clinton. It was Epstein that was able to transfer that Air America CIA uh, 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 air running airplane trafficking operation up to Ohio to then be run with the Les Wexner Epstein crowd out of Ohio. And we're hearing that out of Ohio, we don't know for sure, but it looks like there could be a grand jury also being impaneled in Ohio, but we do know Wexner has been subpoenaed, okay, around the Epstein stuff. So that's huge. Again, talk about barely alive, like Soros, George, that they're going to extract Wexner, or he's being subpoenaed. And so we get James Comer coming out and saying, with Bill Clinton not showing up again today, Hillary is supposed to show up tomorrow. Will she, won't she? It doesn't seem, wouldn't bet on that. And basically their lawyer team is saying there's no standing, there's no way they can enforce these subpoenas. And so James Comer, out of oversight, is saying we are going to therefore have to do criminal referral for contempt of Congress. And so blow up Comer's phone, okay, and everybody on oversight. because we want subpoena. I mean, we want criminal contempt charges for Bill and Hillary Clinton around the Epstein crime syndicate and their massive amounts of hundreds of millions of dollars made off of it. And we want them to face prison like Steve Bannon or Peter Navarro did, and of course all the J6ers. But the contempt of Congress, okay, we want that to be crimes that they have to pay for. And so we will keep following that, as you know, see what happens with HRC tomorrow showing up. Doesn't seem likely. And so the whispers around are that, as I was talking about yesterday with Rhea replacing Bongino as assistant director at the FBI, the reason for this is what is being, kind of put out there is that Andrew Bailey, who we thought would replace Bongino, who's already been co-deputy director of the FBI, pulled out as AG of Missouri, might be replacing Bondi. Okay, this could happen as Trump is getting more and more upset with the lack of effectiveness of the Department of Justice at Bondi's leadership. However, I will also say that it also could be that we might see AG Bailey becoming the head of this fraud department, because Trump did reiterate again today that the fraud department, when he was at the Michigan Ford factory praising the F-150, bringing huge production out of Mexico of all Ford, trying to get everything back to America, as well as Chevy and GM and all of it. But basically, he had to say that this new assistant AG, who will be the fraud prosecutor, is to be announced very soon this week. And we wonder if that might be a Bailey, Andrew Bailey. And so we'll wait to see. That they're saying the same. That same part of the Department of Justice is also going after the funders of the ICE riots in connection with, of course, Scott Bessent's Treasury, going after the funders of the ICE riots. So Tide Foundation, all of it, Soros. So we'll see what goes down there. Hopefully they'll go after Harvard and the Ash Institute. But basically what we're also seeing here is Trump saying that within this fraud prosecution, they're looking at what is amounting to about $1 trillion in question here. Okay, so we're escalating daily from the hundreds of billions, okay, the cash, the billions, through the airports. No, we're looking at up to 1 trillion in this funding, that so much of it is now under question. And so basically what Bessent and Trump are saying is that we're getting the AI that was used in the Doge efforts, now being reemployed with machine learning targets, going after all of the agencies, state and federal, who have received this funding out of HHS and everything to do with healthcare and human services, childcare, etc. Getting all of these points to target who has done the fraud, what's going on. And speaking of Doge and what's going on there, I want to mention that very sadly, we now have, it's come out again, and I think Rand Paul even, was it him? But somebody mentioned this, where basically we have, one thing we loved about Doge was its attack and defunding of USAID and the dismantling, for the most part, of USAID. But now we find that the National Endowment for Democracy, the worst of it, the CIA-run area of the State Department, part of it, but a huge part of it in this, all the color revolutions, all of the CIA abroad, and the use of George Soros as their money cash cow to do their instructive business to, topple governments, etc., seems to be very operational in Iran right now. And to our surprise, they got funded for this year in 2026 to the tune of $350 million. So that is very disturbing, very disturbing. And we're seeing these Iranian diaspora groups that are coming around on media and on Fox and CNN and et cetera, and the Crown Prince and all of it, again, out of Britain, in this whole situation of who's going to control Iran, and Mossad, hugely connected with this money, urge, huge cyber presence of Mossad also in the streets, of course, to urge on these rioters and this regime change in Iran. And there is massive, total destruction of the people of Iran. That's just true. Okay, but within this is that our taxpayer dollars' money are going towards color revolution activity. And Soros, if we look back at his color revolution, it goes back to Serbia, overthrow in 2000, Georgia in 2003, Ukraine, 2004 with the installation of the funding, the beginnings of the Azov battalion being hugely promoted, and then Libya, Syria, 2011. So it's very important that we follow this. We're going to keep following it. But basically, when we look at this, it's important to understand a few things. We have uh, the hanging today, and it's going, by the time you watch this video, it'll probably be happening. It was 9:16 p.m. Eastern time in the United States tonight. Massive hanging of protesters in Iran. It would seem like kind of the opposite of what you'd want to do if you want to stay in power. What we're hearing from Annie Cyrus of the Live Up to Freedom Substack, liveuptofreedom.substack.com, Annie Cyrus, former Iranian, she is saying that what she believes are very reliable numbers and information is that there are 12,000, at least 12,000 who have been killed in Iran since these protests and riots and attempt to overthrow has begun just in January. Okay, 12,000 people. She said almost the vast majority under 30 years old. And what she is reporting, and so this huge hanging, okay, starting with this one protester who's very fairly well known, Irfan Stolfani, 26 years old, but there's supposed to be over 100 people hung tonight in Iran. So it is horrific. It's horrific. Imagine, okay, you know, public hanging of 100 people. Very disgusting, very awful. But what her information is that we're seeing Khamenei consider that if he was, she said that one of the most effective and ruthless generals of Iraq had arrived in Tehran today, and that the idea was that if Khamenei was going to flee, it would be to Iraq, that the Iranian regime no longer trusts Russia or escaping to Moscow, that they would be going to Iraq, of course, who fully defends them on every level. So very interesting to watch what's going to happen there, and we will keep doing it as the week progresses. But I did want to move into this. There's just been this great. Let me take a sip of water. Fantastic. Of course, new media project, the Promethean Action project, and you can find them on Promethean Action on YouTube, etc., or Promethean Updates. And then they have, of course, they want you subscribe, support them. They're putting out really fantastic work where they're giving the public, basically the understanding of the globalist attempt to overthrow the United States post World War II, but already before that. And Susan Kokinda does these videos, and she's fantastic. That comes out of the LaRouche movement. And these people have a good take on historical reality, kind of like Aim for Truth does. Very similar understanding of the Pilgrim Society and who's really in charge. And what she's saying, is that Trump's international realignment here has to do with global defeat. And this is what she is unpacking, which is Britain's War Plan Red. Britain's War Plan Red, a true document where they had meant to use Canada as their proxy dominion for war with Russia and to oppose the United States. And this has everything to do with the Greenland upset that's happening now, as we're seeing actually Carney has been with the CCP as this mega embassy question is happening in Britain. And of course, he ran the Bank of London. He is the Bank of England in London. He is a massive bankster. stepping in as a non-Canadian to lead through stolen elections, Canada into this war, opposing USA and hemispheric defense with a dominion of the UK right above us, a huge country, right? And so, as JD Vance and Rubio are going to meet with Danish and Greenland leaders, the Greenlanders are not happy with the Danes. Okay, they're saying you're trying to control what we need to do for our own country here of Greenland, and they don't want the neo-colonialist control of the Netherlands. Basically, they want a USA alliance. And what's happening here is that we're hearing from literally Germany and Keir Starmer of the UK saying we're going to put troops in Greenland to protect it from the US. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous to even think about. But this is being challenged by Trump, this war plan red, which he is read into and knows about. And so what we're going to get here is that this is it's inevitable what will happen with the USA making an alliance with Greenland one way or another, and this is of course again the how the UK is trying to shape this is that there is this NATO massive problem going on where basically the NATO in this red plan red this war plan red out of Britain, they had always planned and have been doing through the CIA, MI6, Mossad, etc., in these South American countries, how to undermine the USA, whether it is to flood it with drugs and every perversion and to destroy us on every level through the cartel infrastructure that is the funding of the bankster elite globalists worldwide. And the attack on the cartels is what Trump is after because he's showing the world we're going after all of your money laundering with all of this illegal activity that funds it. And so they had this situation of South America being very crucial to this war plan red to go against America and to start this World War III with Russia. That Canada would be, of course, hugely strategic in stopping Western hemispheric defense. And so, as we look at this, it is they're talking about in NATO out of Europe that Article 5 is losing all credibility here because they're actually consider the U.S. now a security threat to the EU. And so hopefully this will end NATO soon. And it's always scary when things end, right? We think the rules-based order, it's doing something for us, keeping us, No, it's killing us. Okay, it's been killing us for 80 years, and it's almost succeeded. If Trump did not get in this last time, it would have been over for the United States of America. So this is Hail Mary, last-ditch effort with Trump at the helm doing such an incredible job to turn things around against all odds here and going up against NATO and still taking the credit for the fact that, yes, the U.S. Does fund 85% of NATO. They would not be able to protect themselves without us. And so they have some huge decisions to make there in the EU as they continue to contrive where they can get the money, where they can rob and steal that money from, okay, to confront the US because they're losing power rapidly. And it is very exciting to see. And we see people like Bukele, President Bukele out of El Salvador, who completely turned that country around, making statements this week saying that one thing that the banksters rely on, that the elites rely on, is that they have a cartel mass criminal presence in the countries they control, because that is what makes the citizens suffer. It is what is an underground basic quality of life that degrades everything, and that without it, a country cannot flourish and thrive while there is this massive cartel criminality going on. And of course, that's why we've seen it ramp up under the Biden invasion with, of course, Mayorkas should be in prison and all of them besides who were part of this. But basically what we have here is Bukele saying that's why in El Salvador we did the mass roundup in the hundreds of thousands, okay, of gang members and criminal cartel members, sticking them in ECOT and other huge maximum security prisons where they can no longer harm our citizens and have to live their lives that suck, okay, where they are punished for their crimes, and where in El Salvador now an incredible, massive boom and huge, safe place to live with a booming economy. Of course, the Bitcoin boom, huge there in El Salvador. And Bukele is definitely a hero for populist across the world. And so let's see what else I want to end up with here. I think we're going to round it up for tonight. Davos in 10 days, Trump has said that he is going to be announcing huge things to do with Americans' affordability and across the board, especially with housing. And you know, this 200 billion that Fannie and Freddie are now having to put up in bonds are decreasing the interest rates. That's how bonds work. Decreasing the interest rates in spite of Powell, in spite of the fact that he will not lower interest rates. They're having to do it from within. That's what these bonds are about. But also, of course, going hard against Jamie Dimon and all the Bankster elite to do with the credit cards and this capping at 10% of credit for 1 year starting on January 20th. Trump is still saying January 20th. And of course, he'll be going to Davos on the 22nd, I believe. And so it's going to be huge, and we're going to be watching it all in real time. But we all on this channel want Trump to go max. I love it. That's a Royce White sort of adage. What he says all the time: Trump, go max, go max. That this is our time, and this is our 250th anniversary. And of course, we want Trump to go max. Of course, we want the USA to succeed for another 250 years and beyond. And the only way we do that is defeating the elitists of the royal banksters, the royal families of Europe who hold the purse strings, okay, the Rothschilds et al., who have been in control and monopolizing the ownership of energy, utilities, grid infrastructure, etc. And if Trump can do this, then we will win. And so we support it all the way, 100%. And Trump, what he said today as well, that with their new fraud department at the DOJ, if you come to America to rob Americans, you'll be thrown in jail. And he also said that also includes the officials within America doing the exact same thing. So let's see it, Trump. Put it across all the officials committing the fraud. Let's see it. Okay, let's see the arrests. And if Bondi won't do it, let's hope that if it's Bailey or whoever you're putting in as this assistant AG of fraud is going to go after. And you're going to, how about just easing the reins on Ed Martin to do everything to do with conspiracy against rights, as we see, of course, under Eileen Cannon, who is a fantastic judge, is where there in Fort Pierce, Florida, this grand jury has been impaneled against Brennan et al. To do with the conspiracy to overthrow the United States government, originating out of 2015. So this is going to be amazing, amazing few weeks, an amazing day. And of course, Tom Fitton always hitting it out of the park. It's Tom Fitton. It takes, Bondi can't do it. Harmy Dillon, nobody can see. Harmy Dillon's in charge of electoral reform, but can't seem to beat, okay, these states to clean up their voter rolls. Well, Tom Fitton, Judicial Watch, can do it. Okay, so maybe he should be in charge over there. And he basically is saying to the DOJ, why don't you just join my lawsuits? They're winning, where he's exposing that there are at least 24 million illegals on, or illegal voters, okay, fraudulent voters on the, whether it is the motor voter method of California, et cetera. But he's saying in California, Oregon, and Illinois alone, we have 24 million people, okay, that who are registered as voters that are completely bogus, and that he is winning in his lawsuits there, and to please wake up the DOJ to do the same. And so I think I'm going to leave it there for today. There's so much more besides, as always, but I have to at some point rein it in and end the video. So I hope that that is news that is very exciting. We pray for the souls in Iran that will be hung tonight. It is absolutely disgusting. We pray for their souls, and we pray for the soul of Scott Adams in his journey towards the great beyond. And of course, so glad that he called on Christ to forgive him and accept his soul, because how fantastic, how fantastic. And I hope that his death can help remind people the time to clean out your body is now. The time to do everything to get the garbage out that was put in through bioweapons or through the shed is so now and so important. And so I'm going to go there to my sponsor. And, it just turns out that this product does actually take the garbage out of your cells, and it's so frustrating, because I wish I could give free products to the world. If I had, a gazillion dollars, that's what I would do, even if I had $1 million. This product gets into your mitochondria. This is c60evo.com/YAFTV. And this is the ESS60 ultra pure carbon 60 molecule that basically cleans out your cells. Okay, it works with your natural hormones, your glutathione and melatonin, to clean the garbage out of your cells, including the neurons in your brain, including your trillions of cells. It gets into the mitochondria, helping to heal your DNA. And we know that the bioweapon absolutely breaks DNA. We need to get it out. Okay, we need to get it out. And especially for people already in the fight with different degenerative diseases, this is a fantastic product. You can use the code YAFTV for 10% off. That is c60evo.com/YAFTV for 10% off. I also give away 2 capsules. Just sent out 2 bottles to 2 different supporters of You Are Free TV. The capsules with the olive oil, the most potent is the olive oil with the most amount of ESS60 in it. And but I give away 2 bottles to randomly selected people, okay, 2 different people every month who support the channel, and it's not a giant not a giant group there, so you have a good chance of winning. So consider donating, and you'll get 15% off with a different link and code sent to you for purchasing the products. And this is the MCT oil, organic coconut oil. All of their oils are incredibly sourced, that are totally pure and single source. It is amazing the qualities of the oil that they use. And so I'm going to leave that there. Thanks for letting me plug. I just want everybody to know that our prayers are so paramount. And I hope that your daily prayer, that you can just elevate it here during this time. It helps to center you. It helps to make your mission more clear to you. God's words for you coming in so much more loud and clear. So let's pray. Let's get behind, with our prayers, the action to free the world and humanity from the global bankster elite that has been trying to destroy us, create a transhumanist, whether it's Epstein, Soros et al., transhumanist, disgusting, perverted one world order in which we are treated worse than the worst poorly treated farm animals. That's how they see us, and we're going to defeat them. So stay focused. Keep your energy high, and especially your vibration, your joy about being alive, because here we are 250 years into the American incredible experiment, and we are meant to be here now. So God bless, and you are free, and I will see you tomorrow.